Hey, Reddit. I never thought I'd be one of those guys posting here. I've read hundreds of these stories over the years, always thinking, man, I'd know if something was off. Turns out, I'm just as blind as everyone else. Maybe worse. I need to get this out. My therapist says writing it down might help. So here goes. Some background. My name, let's call me Derek. I'm 38, live in a suburb outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. I work in logistics management for a mid-sized shipping company. Not glamorous, but it pays well. Around $95K a year. Enough to buy a nice 4-bedroom house, 2 cars, and give my kids a comfortable life. My wife, I'll call her Megan, is 36. We met in college at NC State back in 2008. She was studying communications, I was in business. We met at a house party thrown by a mutual friend. Let's call him Tyler. Classic college romance. She spilled a drink on me, apologized with the most embarrassing laugh I've ever heard, and I was done. Completely gone for this girl. We dated all through college, got married in 2013, had our first kid, a boy, I'll call him Lucas, in 2015. Then our daughter, let's say Emma, came in 2018. Life was good. Life was really, really good. Or so I thought. The first signs I completely ignored. Looking back now, the signs were there starting around 2021, maybe even late 2020. But you have to understand, I trusted Megan with everything. She was my best friend, my partner, the person I told everything to. I never once, in over a decade of being together, had a reason to doubt her. The first thing I noticed was her phone habits changing. She'd always been the type to leave her phone on the kitchen counter, on the couch, wherever, open book. Then slowly, her phone started being glued to her. She'd take it to the bathroom, she'd flip it face down when I walked into the room. If I picked it up to check the time or something, she'd snatch it and say something like, "Oh, let me find it for you," as if I needed help reading a clock. I noticed, but I told myself it was nothing. Maybe she was planning a surprise for my birthday. Maybe she was venting to her friends about something and I didn't want me to see. I made every excuse in the book. Then came the girls' nights that started happening way more frequently. Megan had a group of friends. Her college roommate, Brianna, a coworker named Jessica, and a neighbor named Paige. They'd always done occasional dinners or wine nights, but starting in mid-2021, it went from once a month to every week, sometimes twice a week. I didn't complain. I'm not a controlling husband. I wanted her to have her own social life. I'd stay home with the kids, put them to bed, watch ESPN, and wait for her to come home. She'd usually get back around 11 p.m. or midnight, sometimes later. She'd smell like wine and perfume and crawl into bed. Again, nothing screaming affair, just shifts. The biggest red flag I ignored was how she started caring about her appearance in a way she hadn't in years. And I want to be careful here, because I'm not saying she let herself go. Megan was always beautiful. But she went from yoga pants and messy buns, which I loved, by the way, to getting her hair done every 2 weeks, buying new outfits, hitting the gym 6 days a week, and this one stung later, buying lingerie that I never saw. Let me repeat that. My wife was buying lingerie, and I never saw it, not once. How I actually found out. Fast forward to October 2023. This is where my life fell apart. Lucas, my 8-year-old, had a school project due. He needed to print some photos for a collage about his family. Megan was out, at Brianna's, so I told him I'd help. He wanted a specific photo of all 4 of us at the beach from the previous summer. I knew Megan had it on her iPad, which she rarely took with her. I grabbed the iPad from the nightstand. It was unlocked. She'd been using it earlier and hadn't closed it. I opened the photos to look for the beach pictures. That's when I saw the iMessages synced to the iPad. She'd forgotten.
Or she didn't know, or she didn't care. But her iMessages were right there, and the most recent conversation was not with Brianna. It was with a contact saved as B. Hearts. My stomach dropped before I even read a single word. I knew. In that instant, I just knew. But I read anyway. God, I wish I hadn't, but I couldn't stop. The messages went back months on that thread, but based on the context, the actual relationship had been going on much longer. They referenced their anniversary in one message, a date in March 2021. Over 2.5 years. I'll spare you the worst of what I read, but here's what I gathered from about an hour of scrolling through messages while my son was working on his collage 10 feet from me, completely unaware that his dad's world was ending. The guy's name, based on context clues, was someone she worked with. I'll call him Ryan. He was a regional sales manager at her company. Married, 2 kids of his own. They started as work friends. Then it became an emotional affair, then physical. Classic script. They had inside jokes, pet names. He called her Meggie, a name I hadn't called her since college. She called him Babe. They talked about missing each other. They talked about hotel rooms. There were references to specific hotels, a Hampton Inn near the airport, a Marriott downtown. There were pictures I can't unsee. Things my wife sent to another man, things he sent to her. But the message that broke me, the one that made me physically sick, was from 3 weeks ago. Megan had written, "Sometimes I think about what life would be like if we'd met first, before Derek, before everything. I think we'd be so happy." His response, "We still can be. Just say the word." Her reply, "I know. I'm just not ready yet. The kids." She wasn't staying with me because she loved me. She was staying because of logistics, because leaving was inconvenient. I was a placeholder, a co-parent, a roommate who paid the mortgage while she lived her real life somewhere else. I put the iPad down, walked to the bathroom, and threw up. What I did next and didn't do. Here's where I probably differ from a lot of stories on here. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't blow up. I didn't throw her stuff on the lawn. Instead, I went into what I can only describe as operational mode. Something clicked off in my brain, and something else clicked on. I became cold, calculated. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed either. It's what got me through. That night, after Lucas went to bed, I sat in the garage for 2 hours. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there in the dark, in my car, thinking, planning. When Megan came home at 11:30 p.m., she kissed me on the cheek and said, "Brianna says hi." I smiled and said, "Tell her I said hey next time." She went to bed. I stayed up until 3 a.m. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, the best family law attorney in Charlotte that I could find. A woman named Catherine Ellis, not her real name. She had a reputation for being ruthless in divorce cases, particularly infidelity cases. North Carolina is one of the states where you can sue a third party for alienation of affection and criminal conversation. Catherine confirmed this in our first meeting. Let me explain for those who don't know. In North Carolina, if someone has an affair with your spouse, you can literally sue the affair partner for damages. It's one of only a handful of states that still allows this. Catherine told me these cases can result in significant settlements, especially when the affair partner is also married and wants to keep things quiet. I spent the next 6 weeks building my case. I became a detective in my own marriage. Here's what I did. 1, I documented everything. I went back to the iPad when Megan was out and screenshotted every message I could find, hundreds of them. I uploaded them to a secure cloud drive that only I had access to. I also found emails. She had a separate Gmail account I didn't know about. The password was saved in her iPad's keychain. The emails were worse than the texts, more detailed, more explicit, more romantic in a way that made me want to die. 2, I tracked the patterns. Every girls' night, every work event, every I'm going to the gym, then running errands, I started noting them down. Dates, times, durations. I cross-referenced them to her messages to Ryan. Almost every single one lined up with plans they had made. She wasn't at Brianna's. She wasn't at the gym. She was at the Hampton Inn off I-85 with a man that wasn't her husband. Each photo was a knife, but I collected them like evidence, because that's what they were. 3, I confirmed with a PI. Catherine recommended a PI. I hired one. Within 2 weeks,